Last week we ended off waiting to see which myth piece we would get for the first time this season, as the previous week we had completed a 10, and as you can see everybody is extremely excited to open their vaults, so let's go ahead and see what we got. A little bit of Blizzard shenanigans here as the vault takes a second to load, but we do actually get offered Signet of the Priory, a trinket that a lot of people want out of Priory of the Sacred Flame at Myth. Myth trinkets for dungeons are really interesting because there's no other way to get them than from besides the vault. This season, at some point, we're going to be getting Dinar to take items out of the raid. So you can get any item, three of any item out of the raid at Myth that you want. But you can't get trinkets out of Myth unless they come from the vault. I'm not actually going to end up taking Signet of the Priory here because I'm going to end up taking a tier piece. Signet of the Priory just isn't very good for Vengeance Demon Hunter, and I get more value out of getting 4-piece, unfortunately. Speaking of trinkets from Priory, I actually had a goal this week to get the Tome of Light's Devotion, which is a very good trinket for Vengeance Demon Hunters that comes out of Priory. So I immediately jump in and start slamming Priories at the start of the week. This is good because it also gets me crests, which I wanted to cap on crests. Ideally, maybe send a couple upgrades before we started pushing the 10s for the week. One Priory down, and while I don't get any gear, the healer actually got a Signet that the DK immediately asked for. Unfortunately, everyone needs the Signet, so back into Priory. There are 6 items that I can get from Priory, and a 2 out of 5 chance that I am a person that gets gear, so I have to win a 2 out of 5 and then a 1 out of 6 in order to get the Tome of Light's Devotion. But, I don't know if it's some form of, strange Stockholm Syndrome. The more I was doing Priory, the more I started to become convinced that it's actually a pretty fun dungeon. It's got, some really big pulls, and a lot of the trash, it doesn't really do anything. There's a couple prio mobs that you have to focus on, but, yeah, I was kind of really enjoying these runs after the first few. Another run down, and unfortunately this time we do get gear, but it actually happens to be a ring, not only a ring, a verse mastery ring, which is not something I'm interested in. You know what that means. We went back in for another Priory, and so this is our 4th Priory for the week so far. Literally 4 dungeons we've done. We actually got the Tome, and not only did we get the Tome, we got the Tome with Leech. So this felt incredible to get it in only 4 runs. Very lucky for me right there. After getting the trinket from Priory, we were free to do other dungeons, except not exactly free, because I still have a champion neck and one with terrible stats. And unfortunately, the only dungeon with a good neck that basically every single class needs is Cinderbrew Meadery. So, going to be slamming a couple Cinderbrews, hoping to get the neck. Unfortunately, this one did not drop us the neck, so we're going to do another one. And unfortunately, this next one gets completely bricked because of the Only Fangs Blackwing Lair DDoS, and if that means absolutely nothing to you, just know that you're doing very good in life, okay? That's what that means if you don't know the words that just came out of my mouth. Eventually, servers come back up, and we do a 7 Theater of Pain for crests, where I don't get any gear. Then we jump into a 7 Priory for crests, where I don't get any gear. Honestly, I'm really just looking for the crests at this point, so I think I have, boots, and my neck would love to be fixed, but that's in Cinderbrew. And, Cinderbrew never became like Priory. The more I did Cinderbrew, the more I did not enjoy it. Jumped into a workshop just to get a couple more crests. I think at this point getting close to capping on gilded crests, and I actually needed the runed crest more than I needed the gilded crest at this point. Back to Cinderbee Brewery, where instead of a neck I got a belt. That was an upgrade. Going from champion to hero is welcome, and it rolled avoidance, and it's haste verse. Really couldn't complain. Got a normal neck BOE out of raid this week, so I got some fat stacks from that, and I also got the Gallywix tank trinket, the bomb suit, from raid this week. Just a normal version, but I'm going to be trying that out in some of the higher keys. And speaking of higher keys, that's exactly what it's time for. And first up is a 10 Dark Flame Clef, just to get a nice weekly done, something we know we can do, we've done before. It's pretty easy. We had this Evoker who slammed damage, but just would not lust for the life of him. No idea why. If you have a lust, if you're a lust class watching this video, what's up, man? What's up with lust players? Players with lust that just don't want to use it. Anyway, we timed it. I think we 2+'d it, actually. Super smooth. And I actually got Bis. I got the mount. It was awesome. All right, on to the next one. And the next one we did was a 10 Mechagon workshop. This would be our second 10 ever tried, so this could be our second portal if we time it. And I was blown away by how smooth this run went. Almost 0 deaths. Nobody got caught on the little lightning alert bot section. We even did the skip. I don't know if you've seen people do the skip right at the end. The tank can pull the 2 packs before the last boss over into the corner, and everybody can walk by hugging the left wall and skip both of those packs. It saves quite a bit of time if you can pull it off, and we did this without even practicing. This is the first time we'd ever tried to skip this season. We even had a random in the group, and they were able to skip. It was great. This dungeon was so smooth. The only thing is I have to make a macro to cancel the hunt, because you can still get pulled off, I'm pretty sure, on the final boss if you hunt. And this week was lucky because I was able to hunt the Xalatath emissary, but I was still missing out on procs. And that felt bad. And next week, we're not going to have the Xalatath emissary to hunt into, so definitely got to make that macro. Still, 10 workshop, completed, timed. Going to go ahead, get our second portal, and pick up 56 score off of one dungeon. Moving on. Next up was 10 Priory, and I suspect all the practice that we've gotten at the beginning of the week, spamming it like 4 or so times to get our trinket, that we've got a good plan, we've got a good route, and everything should go nice and smooth. You can see with Lust, we grab a big pull of 4 packs all together. Everybody's slamming, damage is ramping, but I did make a key mistake here. You'll see in a second, 2 mobs start to cast a shout at the same time. There's one and there's the other. I try to Chaos Nova here to stop the pot shots at everybody, but 2 shouts going off with pot shots, it's just too much damage and people start going down. That's going to cause the pull to go on longer. They're going to run back in. The pot shots are hurting in the 10. They're going to keep going down, and it was too much all at once. The timer is not tight enough in a 10 that this is required. I shouldn't have pulled like this. It doesn't make any sense. It's better, I think, to just keep chain pulling, and probably more importantly, make sure to try to not pull both mobs that shout at the same time in. I think that's what I would do differently if we were to do this again in a 10, but I mean, it's still timeable. You can have one wipe on a 10 and still time it just fine. Smooth sailing after the first pull as the first boss goes down. And on to the Paladin room. This is a room that you can pretty much do just by constantly chain pulling. You do all this pull together. All those enemies in the back are non-elites. You just got to worry about the Paladins, and they are staggered when they do the Divine Tolls, and then you just chain pull as you kill off the priests and mages until you got the room clear. For the second boss, I never realized until this run how RNG the Sacrificial Pyre cast could be. You can see for this first pyre, he cast it just right on top of us, which is how I thought that it had been happening for the most part. But then on this one, he casts it in the hammers on the other side of the room. On the next one, he casts it off to the side of the room where nobody was. The hunter wasn't over there. After that, he casts it all the way on the other side of the room through all the hammers again, and unfortunately, we have around a 10% wipe, and that's probably the key right there. We do get him on the second attempt and then move up to clear the last room. The clearing of the last room goes pretty smooth. However, we are only left with about 2.5 minutes as we pull the final boss. We do have Lust, but unfortunately, the timer does tick over sometime around the second phase. And additionally, I was short count. I don't really understand what happened there. This is like my 5th time doing the dungeon this week, but my first time that I was short count. I think it was something in the first pull. We went back and looked, and I think I had been pulling the Archer pack on the right side, but that's definitely something that I'm glad I have footage of. I can go back and check all the Priory videos and see where that missing trash usually comes from. Even though we didn't time it, it was still worth 11 score, and we got hero boots out of it, which were an upgrade, so I'm pretty happy with that. Our vault now has 3 10s, and we need 1 more to have 2 myth items for next week, so we're going to jump into another 10. 10 Theater of Pain, and this time we're in a full guild stack, no randoms. Theater of Pain, actually kind of a difficult dungeon, not in the difficulty itself, but we actually found the timer to be pretty tight. There were very few deaths. I think maybe a couple people got hit by Bone Spear in the soul section. But other than that, you can see we only have 4 deaths going into the last boss, but still only 2.5 minutes. That first section, I choose to go Zavis first. There's a lot of single boss pulls, like mini boss pulls, and they eat up a lot of the time, and it's kind of hard to, you can't really pull those together, so you really got to push damage in this one. After a perfectly played, extremely clean final boss, we're going to go ahead and add another portal to our spell book, as well as 57 more score. And now we are going to have 2 myth items in our vault for next week. Mission success. Overall, a kind of a chill week. We didn't pick up a lot of eye level at 656 now. We got the Tome of Light's Devotion and the Gallywix Trinket, which I'm super happy about, and we put on exactly 140 score, which is kind of low, but we did pick up 2 portals. I'm looking to go a little bit harder next week, so hopefully we have the time for that. The only dungeon I did not run this week, actually, was the Rookery. I ran every other dungeon at least once while farming crests, but I guess we never rolled the Rookery or just didn't feel like doing it. Next week, we have to look forward to a craft and 2 myth items in our vault. The goal next week is going to be to fill out all of our 10s and maybe try to start pushing into the 11s and 12s to go ahead and get that 3K done. That's going to be it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please leave a like. And if you enjoy tanks, go ahead and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.